A little while ago, Nerdforge contacted me and asked me if I could make them a couple of 3D models. I threw myself around, completed the modeling for them, and then they sent me this package. I haven't opened it yet, but I have a sneaking suspicion that I know what's in it. But let's look at the models first. I'm sorry, but in my haste to model this, I didn't think about filming this, so enjoy this dramatic reenactment. What Nerdforge wanted was a tube to store the artwork in and a card holder to hold their collectible cards in. Their design had a lot of nitpicky designs to implement. Sweeping borders, geometric designs, and their logo and everything, and it had to fit on a round shape for the artwork tube. That is a challenge to make look right, but given the time frame I had, I chose to cheat as much as I could using booleans to make sure that everything had a good topology as individual parts, and having the final STL not really matter that much. As it's not going to be animated, the mesh doesn't really matter as long as it prints well. When designing stuff for 3D printing, there's obviously a lot to take into account, and you also end up doing a lot of test printing to make sure that everything works together, and you're doing sanity check to make sure that you're not messing something up that you're not noticing until it's too late. The first pieces that I printed was these black pieces to make sure that the design worked. So after doing that, I started to think about how I was going to connect them together. And I came up with this simple design where I have this part here that aligns with this part over there. Just a little key and a lock there to make sure that you glue them together the correct way. They're also a little bit tapered, so it's easy to slide on. That was one end done. The next thing that I wanted to have designed was some threads on top. Doing threads in a CAD software is usually not a problem. Doing it in Blender was a first for me, and it led to some interesting problems. First, this little test print, and then this little test print where I just booleaned away the thread on this positive part. And what I didn't recognize at the time was that it has no lead-in, so it was impossible to screw together. And I tried to fix it to see if I could screw them together using a knife and trying to cut away so I got a lead-in. Didn't work, but I amended the 3D file and ended up with a lid that can be screwed on. This has a lead-in, so this screws on. My next problem was that when I screwed this on, I wanted this part of the design to align with the middle of the design here, but as you can see, it's a fair bit off. So I adjusted the design and we ended up with this one, which was my second attempt. I adjusted it 30 degrees and there we are. The next test print was of more or less the full size. This is the first prototype. It ended up being too long, so it has been shrunk down a little bit in the final version. With the card stand, I didn't do as many test prints. We did a lot of work digitally, so I sent them some photos. They came back with their vision, and I tried my best to live up to those visions. This was the only prototype I printed of this, and one thing they wanted to do was to avoid the seam in the plaque there and in the logo there. So I split up this part into three, so you have this side, and then you have the logo on its own, and the same here that you have a left and a right, and then the plaque as its own that you glue in, and they are being held in with just some simple pegs. When I saw that they had sent me a package in the mail, I suspected that I knew what the contents was, but I didn't know, but I wanted to, just as a gesture of gratitude, I wanted to design this stand for the artwork tube. So the first thing I did, and the only thing I test printed, was this little bit, which is the arm that this sits on. So it interfaces nicely with the grooves. The stand also has a little hole for an 8mm dowel, so you can use it to strengthen the arms, because the layers are going the only way that makes the arms weak. So if you want some reinforcement, there are places for 8mm dowels. Let me show you the painted versions of the final prints. Now we saw how these were made, so now it's time. Let's open this box and see what they've sent us. Let's start by opening this tape here. Let's see. There we go. This aside. Look at that. That looks amazing with the gold. Oh, this is amazing. Okay, let's look at this. Jesus Christ. This is... I'm kind of overwhelmed. This looks so amazing up close. Okay, there was this gate fragment. Oh, look. They have the artwork tube and the card storage there. Let's see, let's put that there. Hopefully the measurements should be on point. Let's undo this. Need to roll it more. Like a charm. And then that looks so good. I'm so happy. This will for sure go on my shelf. So that's it, I guess. I'm really happy with how everything fit together. The way the card sits in its designated place, and the fact that the back of the card resembles the shape here. It's really, really cool. Gotta be careful with it. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching and see you later. And how it would print with the overhangs and everything, making sure that they are